Hello, Bee Club. Miss A and I are here at the bee patch, and we're going to go through the beehives. This is going to be a virtual experience for us. The Bee Club is most active in the summer because that's when the bees are active. It's the best time to learn about the biology of the bees and what goes on inside a honeybee colony. It's been a tough spring for the beehives here at the bee patch. About a month ago, Miss A and I were just winding down for the night, and then she got a call at 8 o'clock at night saying there's trouble here at the bee patch. Some vandals came and knocked over and almost destroyed both the hives. It was dark, and we put on our bee suits and we tried to assemble them the best that we could, but unfortunately in that both the queens were killed. So we bought a new queen and we put her in about 2 weeks ago, and this is the first time that we've going to go through the hives to see what it's like. So we're going to suit up and then let's go along. Let's look inside the beehive. She's getting the smoker going. She put a whole bunch of pine needles in it. She's going to get a good flame going. And then we're going to walk right up this hill here and look at the bees. Here's the bees. Right now the blackberries are just starting to bloom. So what they're doing is they're coming back with nectar from the blackberries. It's the main nectar source of our area right now. And if there's so much blackberries, then they're going to make a whole bunch of honey. See, one of them's coming in with some white pollen. So this is what we got here. We got our beehives. We strapped them down just in case anybody wants to knock them down again. Miss A is going to come up and we're going to take off that top box, and what we're trying to do today is find the queen. We want to find the queen and see if she's laying her eggs in a good pattern. Miss A right now, she's smoking the hive. The purpose of smoking the hive is to kind of simulate that there's a forest fire. And then if there's a forest fire, what they're going to do is they're going to go inside the hive to kind of survive the fire. When the chapel or Notre Dame burned down in France, there were a couple of beehives that were on the roof, and those beehives survived. They survived the whole fire because the bees went inside the hive, the fire went out and over them, and they were just fine. Okay, she just took off the top. Let's see what we got. Up in the top box is where the bees are going to store their extra honey. So usually there's no eggs up here, and very rarely do you see the queen up here. But if there's a whole bunch of blackberries that are blooming, like I said, they'll bring a bunch of nectar back, and this is where they'll put their honey. Here we go. Well, I was just talking about bringing back some extra honey. So this is the first frame that Miss A just pulled out, and she said that usually there's not going to be anything in here, but all this right here is fresh capped honey. That's a good sign.
You can tell it's fresh capped honey because it's white.
The wax is white.
Brand new wax is what that means. And I put the first frame down along the hive so I have room to move the frames within here. And I gently take my tool and try to quietly pry it apart. If I make any jarring movements, the bees will go ooh, sound wise. I just squished a bee. I heard it. They have exoskeletons. They're crunchy when you squish them. This is an old frame and it's got capped honey on it, but they're just hanging out on it.
I'm going to zoom in here and you'll see that there's some liquid shiny nectar right in here that just bring back. Right there you can kind of see it. So the bees go to a blackberry bush and they get nectar and they drink it. Then they fly back to the hive, and then they regurgitate it into these little holes that they make. And then what they do is they stand over it and beat their wings to evaporate water. And as soon as the water concentration gets to 17%, then that's honey. And then what they do is they make more wax and what is called capping it. So then they're going to cap those cells, and then that's going to be stored honey. The water concentration being 17% is important because at that such low water concentration, nothing could live inside of it. So no bacteria could live inside of it, no fungus could live inside of it, so it's going to be able to be preserved there for basically forever. The bees have to bring back 10 pounds of nectar to make 1 pound of honey. So in essence, they bring back 10 pounds of nectar, and then they got to evaporate 9 pounds of water to make it turn into honey. So here's a whole bunch of bees that are on top of the nectar, and they're beating their wings to evaporate the water. The temperature inside a hive is ideally 92 degrees. So even though it's a 50-degree day here in Seattle, there's going to be so many bees in here. They're going to be contracting their muscles and beating their wings, and that's going to generate heat to keep it at 92 degrees. Over here on the back, Miss A has this temperature gauge right here, which she comes almost every night to the pea patch, and she gathers data to see what is the temperature inside the hive. She also has a scale that's down there that the hive is sitting on. So she measures the temperature of the hive. You can see that this, Miss A, can you hold that frame up? This is a frame that got damaged in a vandal attack, so that was all broke. It was a disaster, folks.
On many levels.
By the way, that frame right there is almost completely filled up with honey. How heavy is that, Miss A, do you think?
It is really heavy. It was so hard to take out of there because they had built that crazy comb on there. Ooh, and I see something on that crazy comb I need to look at right now. And attached it to the frames down below. I don't want them to do that. They like to do that, but it makes it difficult to do inspections. So this was a queen cup, a cup that they would possibly lay an egg in. Oh, and I do see an egg for a queen, so that's not a good sign right now. And there's eggs in here too.
Oh, so there's eggs up high.
Yep, you probably can't see them with your, you see those little white dots in there?
Maybe. Oh, I do, yep.
So that means that there is a queen in here, which is good news. Hopefully it's not a laying worker. A laying worker is a queen, is a regular bee, female bee whose ovaries have been cued to lay eggs because they don't sense a queen. So we could have a laying worker, or hopefully we have a queen. And it's quite possible they don't like the queen and they want to supersede her, and therefore they were building a queen cell. We'll see. This is just the top box.
So again, this frame almost completely filled up with honey. Those places that aren't capped, there's nectar in there that they're evaporating right in around here to turn it into honey.
What's interesting about this frame is I know it's a frame with honey from last year. You can see that this dark area and that dark area, the capping of the honey has sunken in. So it's been there so long, it's sunken in, it's actually touching the honey, where this capped honey here could be this year. I'm suspecting it's last year, just not as old as that, because it hasn't sunken in and is touching the honey.
That first frame that we looked at had really white wax, and that means that it's not touching the honey and it's brand new.
Brand new. So this could be an old frame from last year that they'd stored a lot of nectar and honey for the winter and they just didn't use it. I'm looking for eggs in here. Yep, she laid eggs in there, so we must have a queen.
Usually when we go through a hive, there's nothing going on in the top box, but since there's so much activity going on here, there's so much honey being stored, there's eggs being laid up in the top box. This hive is a good hive to put another box on to give them more room to lay their eggs and store their honey. So right now we got a big box on the bottom and then 2 medium boxes that are next to that. It takes this wax that she's shaving off that she calls crazy comb.
Also called burr comb, B-U-R-R.
And then she puts it in there, and then she's going to melt it down. We put it in the oven at about 200 degrees.
On a specially built apparatus.
And that wax will melt we filter the wax, and then we get Peter's beeswax. Again, here's another frame completely filled up with honey. Hopefully, when we come back to school, what we'll do is we'll extract all this honey in a honey extractor, and there is nothing like fresh honey. Okay, now it's going to start getting crazy. We went through the top box, so now Miss A is going to take the top box off, and now we'll go through the green box, which is our middle box. This box right there.
Is there a lot of crazy comb, Mr. Finn?
Can't see it? Nope.
Okay.
She put it down. That box probably weighed about 40 pounds.
You want to come look at this, Mr. Finn?
Okay.
Maybe this is why my temperatures are low, because I have it over here. That's my temperature probe.
All right, the bees really seem pretty calm, which is a good sign. If the bees are not calm, that means like they have no queen and they get very agitated. Maybe at the end of this video, I'll show you what happened to my lip when a hive did not have a queen and I got stung on the lip. There we go, and there's Miss A. She's going to clean off this frame by just scraping away that wax.
Looking for eggs again. Just shoot.
Okay, now we're going to go through the first frame here in the second box. Down here in the second box, they should store less honey, and down in this box, they should have their babies. And their babies are called capped brood.
I see some drones in here. Drones are the male bees. Like there's a drone right there. There's a drone. They have gigantic eyes. They have bigger bodies. Their butts are a little fuzzy compared to the worker bees.
Drones, or the male bees, do absolutely nothing in the hive. They have no purpose other than to mate with the queen. Drones, the males, they don't have a stinger. So you could hold a male drone and it'll do absolutely nothing. So like I said, they have no purpose inside the hive. They'll leave the hive every couple days and fly around about 40 feet above the hive looking for a queen to mate with. And then it just comes back into the hive and eats honey.
The queen in here, if we see her, maybe you'll see her before we see her, should have a blue dot. This year's color for queens, if you mark your queens, is blue. It's a little bit darker blue. This one queen that she had, I saw her blue was darker. I don't see any eggs.
So this is a good frame to show what they do with the eggs. They'll lay the eggs here in the middle, and then off on the sides, these are called the shoulders, they'll have a bunch of honey. And they'll use the honey, they'll puncture these little cap cells and suck out some honey and then bring it over to the eggs or the larva so they could feed the larva. So on every egg frame, there's going to be a little bit of honey on the sides that they can feed the babies with.
And also in here, if you can see the colored cells, that is where they bring the pollen in and they mix it, maybe with some saliva, maybe with some nectar, and it ferments and it's called bee bread, and that is the protein that they feed the larva. So the honey or the nectar is the carbohydrates and the pollen is the protein, just like we need protein and carbohydrates. So they do too.
Right there you see all that orange pollen in there that Miss A was talking about.
That's where the queen was.
So this is how we got our queen. We go up to a place in Snohomish and buy a queen. It comes in this little wooden box, and then we just push it in the frame, and then there's kind of like a hard sugar that they put in that hole. And then what the bees do is over a period of a couple days is they eat out that sugar to free the queen. And on this side of the cage, let's see, Miss A is going to dig it out. On this side of the cage, there's a wire mesh right there. So over a couple days, the bees get used to the queen's scent, and hopefully they'll accept the queen. So then they release the queen and say, hey, you're our queen. In some cases, they don't like the scent of the queen, and they say, we don't like you. And when we chew you out, we're gonna kill you. And that happened at a hive at our house that Miss A looked through earlier today. Well, that middle box was pretty uneventful. Didn't really see any eggs. Saw, again, a lot of stored honey. So hopefully in this bottom box here, we find the queen and we see that she's laid a whole bunch of eggs. At a later time, we'll talk about mites. And what this is right there is a way that we kill the mites. In a brief nutshell, mites is a tiny insect that's actually a parasite to the bees. And if you get a bunch of mites in your hive, it will destroy the hive. Again, I'll save that lesson for another day. Here we go, we're gonna pull out the first frame here. This is called a deep box. So these frames are a little bit wider and deeper, as you see. Ooh, yeah, there's a lot of bees in here. And that was a bee that landed on my hand and scared me. I am not wearing any gloves. So the odds of me getting stung today are maybe kind of large. What do we see in? Okay, I got one again. I'm gonna back off just a little bit. Okay, I put on my glove, but then it's hard to turn on the camera when I'm wearing a glove. So I'll put one glove in my pocket. That sounds like a stupid idea to solve the problem. Miss A, what do you see on this?
This is a frame that's a medium frame that I put in the deep box because I didn't have a deep frame at that point in time. So if you can see the medium frame, and then they built some beautiful comb on the bottom of it. And when they do that, they tend to just build drone comb, which is comb with cells for eggs just for the male bees.
Since the male bees are a little bit bigger, they need a little bit bigger hole so they could develop as a larva into the male bees. So you see some of these holes there. If those holes are bigger, that means it's drone comb.
I'm gonna try to clean this off. If I don't clean these frame edges, the frames don't fit snug together, and then the bees will violate the bee space, or I allow them to violate the bee space. And that's when they draw the crazy comb.
So part of Bee Club is what we do is we try to go through these hives about every 2 weeks. And every 2 weeks we clean off the frames, we check out the queen, see how she's laying. So hopefully we'll be able to do that here sometime soon. What Miss A is doing right now, she's blowing on the frame. And then when she blows on the frame, that the bees kind of like move around, and she's trying to find the queen.
Trying to find eggs, actually.
So she's looking in those holes, trying to find a little white egg.
I didn't see one. I'm hoping we don't have more queen trouble on the horizon. Lots of bee bread on this side.
Miss A just continued to go through that bottom box. Didn't see any signs of eggs. Not a good sign for this beehive. Saw some eggs, just a couple eggs way up top. We did not find the queen. So we'll talk to Miss A when she puts all the hive together here about what we should do with this hive. Well, good news. Miss A, upon further inspection, saw that there were some eggs laid here in the second box. So maybe what happened is she's just starting to lay eggs here, maybe today or yesterday. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this box back together, and then maybe look at it in another week to see if the queen is indeed laying eggs and if she's laying a good pattern. If not, what we gotta do is we gotta get another queen.
Hey Bee Club, this is the post-hive inspection report. I was really excited when I saw that drone comb that was crazy comb. It had eggs in it, but as I went further into the hive, I really didn't see very many eggs. I had to spend 10-15 minutes with a magnifier looking, and I saw some drone eggs, which made me think, is there just a laying worker, or is it a queen that didn't mate properly and she just lays drones, which are the male bees? On further inspection, I did see some regular worker female bee eggs, but not very many. So hopefully she's just a new queen and getting in her groove. I'll have to come back in a week or so and check. If she's not a good queen, we'll have to squish her and get another queen.